Overdoses are being reversed, lives are being saved, but we don't know how often. Colorado is up to join a multi-state deal that would allow us to recruit teachers across state lines, as long as the other states are willing. Every year, you see those ads for the Mile High raffle giving away a mansion. Want to know how many mansions they've actually given away? It rhymes with 0. I spoiled the surprise. She wouldn't sweep homeless camps as mayor. She wouldn't arrest people for just living on the streets.
I don't believe we should criminalize homelessness.
I'll talk to Leslie Herod about what she would do instead tonight on Next. Police are carrying Narcan. Teachers are carrying Narcan. And nurses and clergy and parents, too. Colorado's given out more than 100,000 doses of Narcan, or naloxone, to reverse opioid overdoses when they're happening. But the state doesn't know how often it's being used by law enforcement, who are often the first of the first responders. Mark Salinger reports on a plan to change that.
We know naloxone saves lives. What we don't know is just how many.
Give out a lot of naloxone, but what's happening with it?
Cities pass it out for free. Police officers carry it everywhere. But when it comes to keeping track of how it's used, well, pretty much no one knows. Rob Valek is the director of the Center for Prescription Drug Abuse Prevention at the University of Colorado.
But we really don't know necessarily, for all the naloxone that we as a state purchase and distribute through different channels, how often is it used? Who used it? What happened? Did someone's life get saved? Did it not work?
The state bought more than 124,000 doses of naloxone from July of 2021 to June of 2022. That's up more than 1,000% in just 2 years. Still, even with the millions of dollars spent, no one knows how or even if it's being used.
We've got this blind spot that we need to close.
Valek created an app called OP Rescue that gives anyone the ability to keep track of how naloxone, or Narcan as it's commonly known, is used. Some police departments use a similar app, but even for the limited number of people in departments that do keep track, it's hard to know if the numbers are even accurate. Take Colorado State Patrol, for example. From the beginning of 2020 through June of 2022, there are only 12 documented uses of naloxone. That may be true, but even Valek finds it hard to believe.
It's impossible that that's accurate. It's an undercount.
Right now we don't have good real-time access to that data, but there's a lot of stuff in the works to make that happen.
Rick Brandt is the chief of the Evans Police Department. He's the reason that more than 200 departments around the state have naloxone. But even his department only now signed up for the app to start keeping data.
We need to find a way to have real-time access to this data so public health and harm reduction can target those areas and bring resources in where they're seeing spikes.
No one is arguing more naloxone is a bad thing, but keeping track could make a big difference.
We have limited resources, and we need to know where to target them to save the most lives.
These apps that help keep track of where people are overdosing and using naloxone are used more frequently in other parts of the country. In fact, in places like Washington and Baltimore, for example, they use it to keep track of overdose spikes in certain neighborhoods so they can distribute resources in a better way. In that sense, Kyle, Colorado is way behind.
We do have tracking on medical use.
Yeah, think of this as in different lanes, perhaps, of a swimming pool. You have one lane that's hospitals and EMS. We have good data on that. But when it comes to lay people, like you and I using Narcan if somebody had overdosed that we come across, absolutely no data at all.
Mark, thank you. Colorado's latest idea to recruit more teachers will need buy-in from Kansas and Georgia and Mississippi. It's a plan to recruit teachers across state lines. Colorado is one of 9 states considering a Department of Defense proposal to set up a so-called Interstate Teacher Mobility Compact. It would make it easier for out-of-state teachers to transfer their certifications state to state. Supporters say it would reduce the cost and hassle of finding teachers who are currently somewhere else.
Even when they get that license, they're oftentimes having to take classes or do a lot of hoops to meet the current Colorado requirements, even if they were a fully licensed educator in a different state. And that can take thousands of dollars of classes or just a large amount of time when you move to a state and need a job, and we need you to have a job right now.
This idea is gliding through our state legislature, but the Interstate Compact wouldn't kick in unless 10 states join, and right now, only 9 other states are considering it. Our next conversation is with State Representative Leslie Herod, one of 17 people running for Denver mayor. Herod says every neighborhood in Denver can add affordable housing. Other candidates have suggested that some neighborhoods often wealthier neighborhoods, are not built for more dense housing. What would you say to Denverites who don't want the look and feel of their neighborhood to change?
It doesn't have to. The great thing is that we can combine things like more duplexes, quads, and triplexes, more neighborhood or more housing that's diverse. Still brick, still a part of our neighborhood, like my neighborhood of Park Hill. I want to see more options. I would love to be in a duplex right now, but there are so few and far between. But they still fit in the character of Park Hill. They don't stick out like a sore thumb.
Is part of that getting more heavy-handed with what developers can build in what areas, the aesthetics of things like that? Because when you're describing homes that fit in neighborhoods, if you just tell people build a duplex, you and I both know it's going to look like Noah's Ark, and there's going to be tiny little windows up on the side of it. You know what I mean? Like, are you talking about getting more heavy-handed with
Yeah, I do.
Okay.
I do think so. I do think that we should have look and feel. But here's why. As someone whose family has lived in affordable housing, I don't want to see affordable housing pop up where you have windows that are this big, where people can't see out or in. You don't get sunlight. You make people feel like they're worth less. That's not okay. We can still beautify this city and have a very, very beautiful and vibrant neighborhoods by building what people want to see and by allowing folks to live in homes that don't scream out, you can't afford to live anywhere else.
Herod breaks sharply with many of the other contenders in this race for mayor on whether the city should forcibly clear homeless encampments. She does not think the city should keep doing that. The details of her homeless plan when our conversation continues in a moment. If you live in Denver, there is a decent chance that you got a fundraising message or 10 from candidates participating in the Fair Elections Fund, because this is the last day for campaigns to get that 9-to-1 public financing match for a donation. Denver voters overwhelmingly approved the fund, and this is its first year in action. It's given out $2.3 million in matching funds to mayoral candidates, about $3 million more to the dozens of candidates for city council and other municipal positions. The fund has about $8 million in total. The city told us they're not worried about running out of money at this point. There are financing caps and a requirement that candidates who lose or drop out return unspent money to the fund. Candidates within the fund can still accept donations after today. They're just not eligible for that public financing match. I would bet that you've seen the TV ads, or maybe you got the mailer for the Mile High raffle. For 14 years now, it's been a giveaway of a luxury home to benefit the Boys and Girls Club of Metro Denver. And in 14 years, the Boys and Girls Club of Metro Denver has never given away the home. It's a good thing our Marshall Zellinger has the glasses to see the fine print.
The Mile High raffle is back.
For 14 years now, the Boys and Girls Club of Metro Denver,
9,000 square foot dream home,
has raffled off quite the home.
This incredible home features 4 bedrooms, a wine room, 2 swimming pools, and much more.
That was the home raffled off in 2016. That was never raffled.
Want to win your dream home from Boys and Girls Club of Metro Denver?
The Boys and Girls Club of Metro Denver has never sold enough tickets, 80,000, to trigger the raffle of the home. The nonprofit does sell enough to still raffle off money and other prizes.
This is why it's so important for people buying tickets to understand the history of the organization and really what the fine print is.
Lori Styron is the executive director of Charity Watch, who simply cautions to know the rules before contributing to a charity raffle. For instance, on this mailer, the Mile High raffle makes it clear, in the smallest print, that if fewer than 80,000 tickets are sold, the grand prize will become a cash amount equal to half the net proceeds. On the raffle's website, the rules explain that if 80,000 tickets are sold, a residence is an option as a prize. If fewer than 80,000 tickets sold, the grand prize is just money. This raffle has never sold more than 80,000 tickets.
To expect the public to be able to really read through the fine print and understand it is not a reasonable expectation for a charity to have.
With all the social media posts, the mailers, and the videos, marketing a raffle can get almost as pricey as the home.
Raffles are very expensive for charities to run. They take marketing dollars, staff time, they take, legal advice.
A financial audit shows how much the Boys and Girls Club of Metro Denver took in from last year's raffle, how much it spent to run and market the raffle, and how much was kept by the Boys and Girls Club. Last year, the raffle took in $7.8 million. Of that, about a third, $2.6 million, was paid out in prizes. Not quite a third, $2.4 million, was spent to run and market the raffle. And the remaining 35%, $2.7 million, was money that benefited the Boys and Girls Club. One answer I'm still waiting to hear back about: how many tickets are the most ever sold? Meaning, how close to 80,000 has the raffle ever been? Yeah. I'll get that answer. I should have asked it sooner, so I would have had it now. That's on me.
I mean, Boys and Girls Club, they do wonderful work. If you want to give them $1, give them $1. Because, I mean, if you give to the raffle, you're going to give them, what is it, like 35 cents or so?
Yeah. And Charity Watch mentioned that. Like, if you want to look at the raffle versus just giving the money, like, you have to weigh, do I want to win something in return, I guess?
Sure. Not to be confused with the Mighty Millions raffle, which is another home that is being offered.
Yeah, and I checked the log, and by the end of next, you will see a commercial for that Mighty Millions. We checked with its Children's Hospital Foundation. Okay. We checked. We, quote, "We have awarded every grand prize home since the inception of Mighty Millions, 8 in all. This year will be the 9th home giveaway."
Okay, I know this is a developing situation. You're just learning about this. I want to learn more about why one raffle says they're giving away the home every year and the other one has never given away a home. I want to know more.
Later this week.
You're killing me with this stuff. Thank you. Good stuff. A dividing line in the race for mayor is whether to arrest people simply for living on the streets. Leslie Herod says she won't do it.
If you are simply sleeping on the streets because you have nowhere else to sleep, that should not turn you into someone who goes into jail.
We'll discuss whether her approach might let the status quo of homeless encampments continue. And a newspaper reports on its own behavior years ago with a promise to do better. Next. State Representative Leslie Herod would stop Denver's homeless sweeps as mayor. Unlike some others in the race, she also would not arrest people just for living on the streets. She says she'd offer housing and services instead. I asked her today what happens if her plan doesn't work. If somebody living on the streets turns down your administration's offers for shelter or for treatment or for other services, what practically happens with that person?
Yeah. Well, listen, 9 in 10 people living on the streets right now want to be in shelter. They want to be housed. Imagine a Denver where 9 in 10 of the people who are living in encampments right now are not in encampments anymore, are not on our streets, are housed. That is the #1 priority of my administration, will be to get folks in that housing. And we've got a plan to do it. We know that Denver, DPS, and RTD own the majority of the vacant lots in Denver. A majority of those Denver sites can be utilized for social housing and for things like the Village Collaboratives are doing, which are temporary shelters for people who are living on the streets. Housing that people want to be in. That will be the priority of the administration.
What happens, though, if you're not able to scale up the number of units or somebody is service resistant? Because you said there's going to be that core you described as 10% that don't want to go. What then happens?
I don't believe we should criminalize homelessness. We should get people in shelter and in housing. And the plan that we have gets housing up immediately. We can turn around housing within a few weeks of the start of the administration, of day one. And that will be our priority, is to get people into that housing. We know we can do it quickly because Denver already has.
Do you have a backup plan if your theory about who will go into housing turns out not to be right? Because the backup plan for a bunch of the other candidates is we're going to arrest them.
We're
going to take them to jail.
Right.
So what's your backup plan?
There is no reason why we should criminalize homelessness. If you are simply sleeping on the streets because you have nowhere else to sleep, that should not turn you into someone who goes into jail, period. And I believe, again, with our plan, that we will be able to move the majority of folks back into housing.
Why do you suppose that you're in the minority when it comes to this position in the race? It seems like a lot of the folks in this race think that public opinion does not agree with you, that public opinion is calling for forcible removals, arrests, that kind of thing.
Well, it's not just about public opinion, it's about what's right.
My full 20-minute conversation with Leslie Herod also touches on why her position on fentanyl criminalization has changed twice in 2 years, how the Denver Police Department would change given that she's led on police reform, and also how Herod sees the split between progressive candidates and centrist Democrats in the race for Denver mayor. All our candidate interviews are up on the Next YouTube page on 9news.com, and Thursday on Next, we will have the results of our poll in the race for Denver mayor.
It was a windy day across Colorado, plus really snowy up in the high country too. Steamboat Springs, 61-mile-per-hour wind gusts out there around northwestern Colorado, and then the eastern plains, Burlington, Fort Collins up into northern Colorado, looking at 30, 40-mile-per-hour wind gusts. They're still going strong tonight, and of course the worst of it around Berthoud Pass. Tonight, in and around Loveland Pass, still a little bit of light snowfall coming down. We're going to have a brief lull tonight before our next storm moves in as we look ahead toward tomorrow. It's still anchored out to the west. It's going to dip into the Great Basin and then slide across Colorado, ushering in incredibly heavy snowfall for the San Juans. Here we are about 7 o'clock tomorrow morning, waking up to mostly cloudy skies here in Denver. Heavy snowfall down to the southwest. Every everything stretching to the north. And by about 4 or 5 o'clock, a couple of light snow showers passing around the metro area. It won't be widespread, not really a huge deal. It's just going to be the timing and that evening drive. We still have the advisories out for northwestern Colorado, and then the winter storm warning for 1 to 2 feet of snow coming across the San Juans. Yeah, just about a trace, maybe an inch tops as this storm system rolls into our backyard by tomorrow evening. 30s and 40s for highs, a little cooler on Thursday. Another chance for snow late Friday night, but the weekend looks pretty good.
A media outlet in Colorado grapples with the mistakes it made in the past.
Media is one of the places where we can present a holistic picture, but that did not happen with the Black Panthers.
Newspaper says it got it wrong. Correction of sorts. Decades in the making. Next. A newspaper is reckoning with its history of racist coverage, not like a behind-the-scenes thing. They're doing it right on the front page. The Golden Transcript has been around since the 1800s. Its current project focuses on 2 very problematic years.
In the 60s, the late 60s, early 70s, so like a period of 2 to 3 years, the Golden Transcript had printed like 170 stories about the Black Panthers, and most of them fairly negative.
Linda Shapley is the publisher at Colorado Community Media, which now owns the Transcript. This month, the paper worked with researchers to reevaluate its past coverage of the Black community, specifically the Black Panther Party. One of those researchers, Jamaica Lewis, is a senior librarian at Denver's Blair Caldwell African American Research Library. She went through articles from 1969 to 1971 and found that the Golden Transcript mentioned the Black Panthers more than any other local newspaper. That coverage, mostly from national news wires, almost exclusively painted the Black Panthers as violent. And Lewis says those articles, along with limited other local coverage of the Black community, had a real impact on public opinion.
When you, as a media publication or as a media outlet, choose to only paint Black people in a negative way, you're doing it with intention. You're doing it so that you don't, your readers and that folks who are watching don't see Black folks as human. And it's really hard to empathize with someone's fight or with someone's struggle when you can't even see them as a person.
We have to be thoughtful about those decisions, and we have to be thinking about what do we want to make sure is reflecting the needs of our entire community.
Golden Transcript published a full report about its past coverage this month, along with a letter from the publisher apologizing for the harm done and outlining a plan for the future. Next, the paper and Lewis, the researcher, hope to address the paper's current biases and how to better represent marginalized communities today. Oh boy, teachers want to be heard tonight about this interstate teacher license thing. That's your feedback next. Here come Colorado's teachers to take us to school on this idea of making it easier to bring in teachers with certifications from other states. Gretchen Levere says she's a 15-year teacher who quit, quote, because of lack of support, lack of healthy pay, and unreasonable expectations. She says, I'm frustrated that the solution is giving licenses to out-of-state teachers. She said, really fix the problem. And this from Kelly, who says that she's been teaching in Colorado for 30 years. If a teacher wants to change districts, district will only pay him for anywhere from 7 to 12 years of service. Kelly writes, this is why teachers won't teach. It's because we're not paid what we are worth. Well, that certainly got a lot more complex. Looking forward to those perspectives being shared at the state capitol as this idea moves through our legislature. And then again, the Interstate Compact would need 10 states to be activated, only 9 considering it now. See you next time.